Brandon Ousley here, play-by-play for the Abby Canucks. You got it locked on the Line Change, a Vancouver Canucks podcast.
Vancouver Canucks are currently 32nd in the league. With only 600 minutes of hockey left, yes, I did the math, most people have already checked out. But if you're looking at these final 10 games as meaningless, you're missing the most important evaluation period of the entire rebuild. Is Linus Karlsson a legitimate top 6 threat or just a late season mirage? Can Zeev Buium and Tom Willander actually handle top 4 minutes when the pressure is off? And is it time to officially move on from Niels Höglander? What's up, Canucks Nation? Welcome back to the Line Change. And if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Line Change. Today, we're breaking down an article from The Athletic that has 5 massive questions the Canucks must answer before the end of the season. Because these 10 games will dictate exactly what this roster looks like next October. Let's dive into it. So let me pull this out for you guys. There we go. As I mentioned, 5 questions the Canucks need answers to before the end of the season. This article written by Thomas Drance. This was published 4 days ago, but he goes on to say there isn't much meaning at this time of the year, especially for the NHL's 32nd place team by a mile, just playing out the string. End of season surges from undermanned teams are commonplace when the pressure is off. Veteran players check out and begin to make more business decisions eventually as star players get shut down for increasingly minor knocks and as NCAA free agents begin their professional careers, even the lineups become less recognizable and show quality. The end of the regular season is a time for mirages and false hope. You might get the occasional meaningful game exclusively from opponents in the midst of a playoff hunt, but this is a portion of the schedule that needs to be analyzed with extreme caution. It will trick you if you let it. So let's move on down. As we mentioned, number 1 on the first question is, can Linus Karlsson handle top of the lineup usage? By just about any metric you might consider, 26-year-old winger Linus Karlsson has been Vancouver's best and most impactful forward this season. Now, granted, some of this will seem like damning Karlsson with faint praise, but it's well worth wrapping our heads around the extent to which Karlsson has outperformed all other Vancouver forwards this season nonetheless. First up, with 25 points, Karlsson is Vancouver's leading 5-on-5 point producer this season. Karlsson is easily the Canucks' most effective play driver and leads all active forwards by shot attempt differential at 5-on-5. Among all Canucks skaters who've logged at least 100 5-on-5 minutes this season, Vancouver has only outshot their opposition with 2 skaters on the ice, Karlsson and Quinn Hughes, who doesn't even play here anymore. Karlsson leads all Canucks skaters by evolving hockey's goals above replacement metric, and second place isn't even in the same neighborhood. And of course, if we go down and check out this graph, as you can see there, Linus Karlsson is in first. Kiefer Sherwood is in second, and again, he doesn't even play here anymore. Obviously, third is Elias Pettersson. Then you got Liam Ogren, Marco Rossi, Jake DeBrusk, Teddy Bluger, Evander Kane, David Kampf, Drew O'Connor, Aatu Ratu, Lucas Reichel, Philip Hedl, Brock Besser, Niels Höglander, Archie Baines, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Max Sasson, and then Connor Garland. There is some context required, however, for what Karlsson has achieved in his first full NHL season. As impressive as he's been largely untested outside of a very prescribed role at the bottom of the lineup for the NHL's 32nd place team. Among Canuck forwards who played at least 20 games this season, Karlsson ranks 15th by even strength time on ice per game. He's played a well below average proportion of his minutes against top 6 competition and top pair competition, spending nearly all of his ice time matched up against the opposition's third and fourth lines and second and third pairs. As a corollary to that, however, Karlsson has also logged very little ice time playing with any of Vancouver's top 6 forwards. That obviously changed in the last game against the Flames, where he was actually on the first line. So he's playing against soft competition, but is also largely riding shotgun with inferior quality line mates. Whatever context we want to put on it, the fact remains that Karlsson has managed to both produce and carry play in his 5-on-5 minutes, which is something none of his teammates have really managed. He hasn't proven that he can be as successful in a larger role against more difficult competition. Well, I guess he kind of has proven it after one game. Obviously, we're going to want to see more, and who knows if Adam Foote will actually keep that line together with Karlsson on the wing with Elias Pettersson. Where was I? That he can be as successful in a larger role against more difficult competition when challenged with complementing more skilled players, and he might fail if that were tried. Still, that he's actually won his minutes territorially and produce should be a signal that the Canucks should consider amping up his ice time and the difficulty of his deployment as an experiment down the stretch. Not only would this give the Canucks a sense for what it might look like, but it would also potentially allow Karlsson to get some information on the areas of his game that require improvement and what he might need to focus on this summer. If he's going to continue his late blooming trajectory and develop into more than a bottom 6 option with net front utility on the power play, Canucks have, of course, already signed Karlsson to a baffling timed extension that carries a $2.25 million cap hit for next season and the year beyond that, so they've already made a material bet that he's more than a fourth-line player. Over the last 10 games or so, it would be completely absurd for the Canucks not to back up that wager by giving Karlsson an extended look with Elias Pettersson, so not just one game, an extended look, and bumping him up to play closer to 15 minutes per game at 5-on-5. Question number 2. Can Zeev Buium or Tom Willander hold up in the top 4 minutes? Since Tyler Myers was put on mothballs in advance of the trade that sent him to the Dallas Stars on the other side of the Olympic break, both Zeev Buium and Tom Willander have seen their 5-on-5 ice time spike significantly. You can see it clearly when it's grabbed based on a 10-game rolling average, as you can see here from this graph. Obviously, Buium has jumped a little higher than Willander, as of course Buium is playing with Filip Hronek a lot lately. With a greater minutes burden comes more difficult matchups and more time spent chasing around middle 6 players in the defensive end of the rink. For both rookie defenders, that's a significant change. Buium was heavily sheltered in Minnesota, although largely played a top 4 role on arriving in Vancouver, whereas Willander had played heavily prescribed matchups until after the Olympic break from what they were working through earlier on in the year. The results have been mostly uneven. The underlying numbers, however, make it even clearer than the eye test. Since the Olympic break, Willander ranks 3rd among Canucks defenders in 5-on-5 ice time, while Buium ranks 4th. Tellingly, however, they've rarely taken a shift together as a pair during that stretch of games. Buium has fared somewhat better. The Canucks have only been outshot by 17 in his minutes and have been outscored by a 14-10 margin. Buium, however, has only started half as many shifts in the defensive end as Willander has and started 51 shifts in the offensive zone at 5-on-5 in comparison with just 17 for Willander since the end of the Olympic break. Willander on a pair with Marcus Pettersson has been more thoroughly thrown into the deep end in terms of his deployment. The results haven't been buoyant as Vancouver has been outscored by a 14-8 margin in Willander's 5-on-5 minutes, while being outshot by 35 across his last 13 games. In Buium's case, you're just looking for more of those dynamic offensive moments and for him to get more comfortable making the sorts of skilled plays that his team needs to drive. To drive some measure of offense from the blue line, both in zone and in transition. In Willander's case, if the two-way results don't trend up, Vancouver may want to more strongly consider wading into free agency and exploring its options for a veteran right side defender who's more comfortable handling secondary matchup minutes next season. Think someone like a Troy Stetcher or Jamie Alexiak. That would permit Willander to develop in more favorable circumstances, either on the third pair or potentially even logging huge minutes in the AHL. Although personally, I do not think Verlander is going to be going down to the AHL anytime soon. I think he's proven himself to be a NHL defenseman, considering he spent most of the season with the big club. Number 3, does Nikita Tolopilo need to be on this roster next season? Nikita Tolopilo has been Vancouver's best goaltender this season, but prior to the game against Calgary, he hadn't played in 11 days since he was shelled by the Seattle Kraken. The talented and enormous 25-year-old goaltender has struggled with some technical aspects of the position. He's been especially vulnerable on slot line plays, for example, but has also performed unflappably in a largely impossible defensive environment across 12 starts this season. Make that 13 now. And next season, Tolopilo will require waivers if he's cut from the team during training camp or reassigned to the AHL in season. Going away from Tolopilo over one poor performance is an asinine player deployment decision for a team in Vancouver's position. The club should be rotating between Tolopilo and Kevin Lankinen down the stretch of this squandered season and gather as much information on Tolopilo's suitability to be a full-time NHL netminder as it possibly can. There's real urgency in this situation, and the Canucks are going to need as much information on Tolopilo as they can gather. Given the success of Brandon Bussey in Carolina this season and the increasingly evident fungibility of goaltenders as a league-wide trend, a goaltender with Tolopilo's talent level and team-friendly contract is extremely unlikely to pass through waivers unclaimed next season. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's guaranteed that he will not pass through waivers and not be claimed. And the Canucks will require a solid third goaltending option, especially as it's been a long time since Thatcher Demko proved to be durable enough to make a run of consecutive healthy starts. Realistically, Vancouver may even want to consider mimicking the Buffalo Sabres and Kraken next year, both of whom have carried 3 goaltenders on the 23-man roster all season. That would both protect the Canucks from risking losing Tolopilo on waivers, prevent Vancouver from being in a position where they trade him for a mid or late round pick, as they unwisely did with Artur Silovs last summer, and permit the Canucks to keep Demko on a strict pitch count, both in terms of games played and in terms of practice reps. Designing a 3-way split next season in which both Lankinen and Demko are slotted to play 30 to 35 games, with Demko never serving as the backup, seems like a sharp way to keep him healthy and attempt to resuscitate his value. That would leave 12 to 22 games for Tolopilo to start and continue his development as an NHL goaltender and a potential trade asset down the line. If that's going to be an option for the Canucks to consider this summer, and it clearly should be, then Vancouver should be playing Tolopilo every other game right now. Looking at question number 4. Is Niels Höglander part of any answer for this team? Obviously, we've been talking a lot about Niels Höglander as of late and his future with the Canucks. Niels Höglander is at the point now where 3 separate head coaches, Bruce Boudreau, Rick Tocchet, and Adam Foote, have deemed him untrustworthy to hold down an everyday role in their lineup. Höglander is now 25 years old. He's smack dab in the middle of his prime and has 2 years remaining beyond this season on an extension that carries a $3 million cap hit, but his lack of hockey sense and inability to clean up the detailed mistakes that have been repeatedly drawn the ire of his coaches are beginning to significantly hold him back. It's not for a lack of skill or effort. In Höglander's case, his work rate and fitness level are unquestioned, and we know that he can be a heat check bottom 6 point producer. It's ultimately on Höglander to do the things that are required of him to remain in the lineup. However, this is also a situation that the Canucks need to approach delicately down the stretch. Höglander should be a player who, even if he's not part of the long-term solution in Vancouver, is able to hold some measure of exchange value by the final year of his contract. The Canucks need to get him reps down the stretch without scratching him and hope for a significant bounce back for him to fix the defensive miscues that have him yo-yoing in and out of the lineup every season so that he can rebuild his value. Of course, I've mentioned already, he managed to get that goal against Calgary the other night. Hopefully that helps with his confidence, and hopefully Foote doesn't keep yo-yoing him in and out of the lineup so it affects his confidence even more, because you would think scoring a goal for the first time in a while would help with his confidence. Number 5, the final question is, can Marco Rossi handle top-line center duties? Marco Rossi has been Vancouver's best and most productive forward since the end of the Olympic break. He looks like he's finally healthy, he's cooking on the power play, and both his skill level and willingness to battle have been both evident, and a welcome relief from some of the performances we've seen this season from Vancouver's other centers. Even as Rossi's usage is ticking up with his performance over the past few weeks, however, he's still played 17 fewer 5-on-5 minutes than Teddy Blueger has since the end of the Olympic break, and 4 fewer than Elias Pettersson. Why the Canucks haven't yet seen fit to utilize Rossi in a proper top-of-the-lineup role is beyond me, but it should change over the final 10 games remaining in the season. So there it is. Great article from Thomas Drance. He's obviously got some incredible articles. Thomas Drance has been doing this for a really long time, so he knows what he's talking about. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about these 5 questions the Canucks must answer before the season ends? And do you agree that these are the 5 questions that the Canucks need to answer? Or is there questions that weren't a part of this article? And do you think that, or let me know let me know in the comments what you would change when it comes to these 5 questions. Would you take a question out and replace it with one of your own or some other topic? Let me know in the comment section down below what those would be. And of course, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to The Line Change. And be sure to have your notifications turned on so you don't miss more in-depth analysis and more breakdowns of your Vancouver Canucks. Let's take a look at the NHL draft odds for Monday, March 30th. Let's take a quick look here. Oops, wrong thing. You know what? Since we're talking about the Canucks, let's do the Canucks. Canucks and the Vegas Golden Knights. Canucks are a plus 1.5 and a plus 120 on the puck line. They are a plus 275 on the money line. Vegas is a minus 1.5 and a minus 142 on the puck line and a minus 34 on the money line. Of course, a reminder that these odds are, of course, subject to change. And of course, please play responsibly. And now, a big thank you to the sponsor of this video, none other than DraftKings Sportsbook, which is, of course, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN, that's code THPN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which will expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved. This video has been a presentation of both DraftKings Sportsbook as well as the Hockey Podcast Network. Be sure to check out the network for your favorite podcast covering your favorite team at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com, the home of hockey podcasts, where it's every team, everywhere. Once again, Drop your comments down below. And on your way out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more daily Vancouver Canucks content. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next line change.